From the Open Season Property Studio, welcome to Super Talk Outdoors, where every single Monday at lunchtime, we celebrate the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi because we are the capital of the outdoors in America. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful Super Talk Mississippi Radio Network. You know, you can also listen to the show, Super Talk Outdoors, on supertalk.fm, Amazon Alexa, the Super Talk Mississippi app, or, of course, at Super Talk TV at C Spire TV. Some of you are watching the show on YouTube or Facebook or watching on your favorite podcast. As I say every week, we try to be there wherever, whenever you want to engage in the show. And we really appreciate you. It's July the 22nd, 2024. Where has this month gone? My goodness, it's just flown by so rapidly. Listen, I shared a quote last week on my other show, the Ricky Matthews Show, that really got my mind racing. I have a show tomorrow where I'm going to talk about it in a lot of detail, but the essence of the quote really applies well to outdoors as well in a really big way. And the quote is from Lady Bird Johnson, and here's what she said: "The environment is where we all meet, where we all have mutual interest. It is not only a mirror of ourselves, but a focusing lens on what we can become." You know, what she's saying in that quote is that there's common ground that unites all of us. Outdoors, in our case, most of us share an interest in preserving and protecting Mississippi's wildlife legacy. We love the outdoors. We're passionate about the outdoors. Imagine if we didn't take care around managing things like turkey and white-tailed deer and ducks and crappie and speckled trout, red snapper, and a long list of other species. What if we didn't care about our state parks, or we didn't really care about managing our wildlife management areas? What if we couldn't care less about things like chronic wasting disease? The result of our outdoors world would not be very pleasant, would it? One thing is for sure, we would not stay the capital of the outdoors for very long. And we would not be passing much to our kids and our kids' kids, to future generations. Frankly, our legacy would be a disaster. Our legacy would really stink. So what Lady Bird Johnson is saying in that quote is that what we see in Mississippi's outdoors, what we currently see there, is a reflection on all of us individually. And it also makes a statement about us as an outdoors community. Mississippi's outdoors is a mirror that reflects whether we truly care or not. It really reflects what we're giving to it. And in that way, that quote was very powerful to me. It really is a focusing lens on what Mississippi's outdoors can become. So when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see someone who is making contributions to the outdoors? Are you excited about our collective contributions? I am. I really am. You know, listen, I ran across a speech from Mike Tomlin, and I shared this on my other show as well. He was talking to a group of athletes, and he said, you know, he's talking to them. He said, who in here is strong? Who's the strongest? And who in here can run the fastest? And so on. He goes through a list of athletic attributes. And then he says to the group that none of that matters. And he says, listen to me. It's not what you're capable of that really matters. It's what you're willing to do. And he says, I know a lot of people who are capable, but I know few people who are actually willing. Will is a powerful thing. Ask yourself what you're willing to do. Are you really willing to do your part as it relates to our wildlife legacy? And so when I contemplate that particular quote, it's strong and it says something to me. And what Mike Tomlin is saying is that what separates those who make a difference and roll up their sleeves and make a difference from those who just talk about making a difference, at the end of the day, it's willingness, the willingness to really make a difference. So look, Mississippi's outdoor world is really thriving today. There are challenges like I mentioned, like chronic wasting disease, but it's thriving because leaders and employees at the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks have really dedicated their lives to managing our resources. And outdoorsmen and women all across the state, people listening to this show and some that aren't, but you've dedicated your life to helping manage the resources that are part of this. We're doing our part, and we're willing to do our part. In a way, we're going to make our kids and our kids' kids proud. In other words, as a general rule, we are all strong-willed people. And that's one of the reasons Mississippi is Outdoors has been doing so well. We roll up our sleeves, and I thank God for each and every one of you. You know what? At the end of the day, we each have a role. We each have a role in conserving Mississippi's outdoors, and we do it by following the laws that are passed and hunting and fishing ethically. We have a Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Commission that I talk about a lot, in the Mississippi Legislature that I talk about a lot, because they have incredibly important roles. But, you know, we're all in this together, and we all go forward together. Listen, one of the things, as I talk about the Mississippi Legislature and the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Commission, I really think that the laws and policies they create, excuse me, are generationally important. That's why this show has worked so hard to shine the light of truth on the process. We all have to pay closer attention, because at times special interests do try to influence outdoor laws and policies in the state in ways that are contrary, excuse me again, contrary to protecting Mississippi's wildlife legacy. Too much of their work has been at times off the radar screen and sort of behind the scenes. This show has been about exposing those things and about giving voice to Mississippi's outdoors and working hard with you to sort of protect that. This show is the voice of Mississippi Outdoors. So, as we all know now, Leonard Bentz and Bill Costner have both been replaced by Governor Reeves. There is very strong evidence that the governor and his staff took extreme care in selecting the two new members of the commission, Todd Hairston and Colin Montgomery. They both appeared to be wildlife commissioners who are going to be selfless and excellent leaders as they passionately help us move Mississippi's outdoors forward, and as they work with us to protect Mississippi's wildlife legacy for future generations. So as I sit here today, based on what I know, I'm thrilled we appear to be making progress with the commission. And I want to express my thanks to Governor Tate Reeves and his staff for their leadership. Governor Reeves is an economic development governor as well. So everything I've said up to this point is extremely important, but also there are some very, very important elements of the outdoors that are important to families across the state of Mississippi, and that's the economic aspect of it. The outdoors industry in Mississippi is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Today, we're going to be joined by one of the new commissioners, someone I've been really looking forward to having a conversation with, and I appreciate him joining me so quickly after he was announced. So I want to welcome to Super Talk Outdoors my old friend, Todd Hairston. Todd, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great, Ricky. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Listen, I mentioned, I guess it was last week, that you and Colin would be joining the commission, and I immediately, in my mind, reflected on the conversations that we have been having since your name was announced. And I really want to, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time. We spent hours on the phone together, and it was very helpful to me. But that wasn't the first time we met. I mean, like I said, when I was the vice chair of the Governor's Commission on Recovery, Rebuilding, and Renewal, you joined me on my tourism planning effort. And so, we go back a long way. So you've been in coastal Mississippi for about 20 years. Is that right?
19 in June. We moved to Gulfport 2 months before Katrina.
Isn't that ironic? But you're from the Mississippi Delta. So I want to tell your story and tell where you came from. And within your story, as I mentioned to people, there's an incredible story of redemption, and it's inspiring. And I want to share that as well. The Todd that people knew before may be a little different than the Todd that you're going to meet today. You can judge that by how this conversation goes. But so, Todd, why don't you do this? Let's just start with this. Just tell people what you do in your real world work these days.
Okay. Well, when I moved to the coast, I was hired by an environmental consulting firm, Covington and Associates, and around 2010, became one of the partners in the firm, was the CEO for around 10 years, and now fill a principal and business development, government relations role.
So, and you do tell us about the kind of work you guys do.
We do. We're a civil and environmental full service engineering firm, but we also specialize in large scale program management stuff for federal and state entities. We assist in disaster scenarios, whether that be from a debris monitoring standpoint or anything else that we're asked to do to help our clients. We also work in different states, about 3 or 4 of them now, and we offer services to both private and public companies when needed.
Listen, Todd loves the outdoors. There's no doubt about that, and you'll understand more about why I say that here in a second. He's also had the opportunity to hunt all over the United States. So when I say Mississippi's the capital of the outdoors, he gets that too. So when we come on the other side, we're going to go back to the beginning, growing up in the Mississippi Delta. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studios. Listen, Open Season Properties is a full-service real estate company with a team approach philosophy that ensures your needs are the highest priority, whether it's rural land sales, residential, or commercial properties. Open Season Properties markets and sells real estate in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia, and they're dedicated to the development of long-term client relationships and unwavering commitment to service. Go to openseasonproperties.com to learn more. We're just thrilled to have them as a title sponsor of Super Talk Outdoors. I'm thrilled today. We have a very special guest, a new commissioner recently appointed by Governor Tate Reeves during the new legislative session after the new year. He'll be before the Senate for confirmation. But he'll be serving as a commissioner between now and then. And we're excited that we have 2 new commissioners in Todd Hairston and in Colin Maloney. And as I mentioned, what we'll do, he's been on the coast for 19 years. I know this for a fact. He loves to fish, backwaters and offshore. He loves to hunt. But let's just take a step back, Todd, and start with, growing up in the Mississippi Delta. Let's talk about your early life.
Okay. Well, I was born in Greenville, as was my wife. We were in the same kindergarten class. I always like to say that. Started hunting and fishing at a very early age with my dad and my granddad, all over the Delta, mainly close to the river. My grandfather lived on Lake Chico in Lake Village, and one of my favorite memories is fishing off of his pier and hand grabbing catfish down there by his bulkhead. It was something that was just seared into my memory. I'll never forget, because while he was in the midst of building his home, his retirement home on that lake, he took the time to install some cinder block tubes for me and my brother and cousins to go down and spend time at his house, because it was so important to him, and it was a big part of my childhood.
Yeah, it's cool to see. Usually we get it from a granddad or a dad or a mother in some cases. A lot of people unfortunately don't have that influence, and they get a little bit later in their life. But once they get hooked, they get hooked. But I mean, once you got the outdoors in your blood, it was always going to be part of your DNA, wasn't it?
It was. You go through phases of life, and some things get important, and some things fall by the wayside. As we're going to talk about, I've been through a lot of different phases of life, and that's something that never left, though. Sometimes it was more important to me than others, but it was always there. So it's great.
Yeah, it's good. Look, and then you have, we'll go ahead and mention about your family. You have a young family. And when I talk about your kids and your kids' kids and leaving a legacy, you really understand that to the depth of your soul, don't you?
I do. I understand it more and more every single day. I remember being probably I was in middle school when I would watch hunting videos on VHS of different folks, but I distinctly remember watching Will Primo standing on the bank of the Mississippi River talking about leaving it better than you found it. And I don't know which truth video that was, but we always watched it. And the other one we always watched was the general, when Will Walker killed the general with his bow. We just couldn't believe that there was a deer that big in the South. There's no telling how many times we watched that video. But, you know, the last thing that I want is to burden my grandchildren, and further than that, with deer numbers or anything else, turkeys, like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And for sure, what I don't want is to be part of having not done anything about it, if I could add.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's awesome to see. It's interesting. I talk about Will and Toxie and Cuz and a long list of these, what I call ambassadors from Mississippi. We're lucky. I mean, some of the most important, companies that are widely known because of their outdoor channel programming and their social media presence and so on. But they're ambassadors for the state. So many of us have been touched by them. And, through this show, to have the opportunity to get to know all of them better and to see them leading. Will, for example, later in his life, how passionate he's gotten about how serious we need to be, how much more serious we need to be about managing the resources in this state. I'm thrilled to see that. I think, we're all kind of joining together and we're working hard to do the right thing. And, I think, as I said at the beginning of the show, I think the governor and his staff really get that. And they're demonstrating that through selecting you and Colin. And I'm happy about it. I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. When did you know that the work that you were going to do was going to be somewhat related to the environment? How did you know that you wanted to do that, and when did you decide that?
I had some friends of mine. I went to junior college my first year. I was going to try to play football, and then some older friends of mine had enrolled in environmental sciences and with some chemistry involved, and it sounded fun to me. It sounded like I wouldn't be sitting at a desk, which isn't the case anymore, but it sounded fun. It sounded like something I'd be interested in, and I was right.
Hey, so you fell in love with the outdoors. As you find success in your life, it gives you the opportunity to be able to do things. And so, just as it relates to Mississippi initially, how do you enjoy the outdoors in Mississippi? What is it you've historically enjoyed doing?
Historically, I've enjoyed spending time with my family and close friends in the outdoors. My dad, my brother, like I said, my grandfather, my father-in-law, all of my extended family have all been a big part of that. Sometimes even when I didn't know it, were teaching me lessons about life while out there. Well, I'll talk more about that later. But now, though, I enjoy the outdoors on a much deeper level than before. I go out there to find bigger things than I used to, more than just a deer head on the wall these days.
Yeah, it's we find peace, and when people hear more about your story, they'll get a sense of that. You've had the opportunity really to travel across the United States as well, and when you do, I mean, again, I say it on the show a lot. You might find a mule deer you're not going to find in Mississippi, or an elk you're not going to find in Mississippi, and so on. But when you look at the cumulative nature of the species that we have available to us and the quality of the hunting and fishing, whether it's crappie or backwater or offshore, Mississippi is the capital of the outdoors, and you get a chance to go see that, don't you?
I have had the chance to see different terrain and species from Alaska to Maine to South Dakota, all over, and have enjoyed that. However, you make a really good point. We get used to things that are in our backyard, and sometimes we need to remind ourselves of how important it is to us and how blessed we are to have them. For example, I didn't turkey hunt until about, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, and now I'm obsessed with it.
Well, isn't that what they say?
Yeah,
Once you get hooked, it is one hell of an experience. And
I was warned too. I was.
Well, when Will and Toxie and Lake and Jordan and a long list of people tell their stories, it is truly a wonderful outdoor obsession that once you get hooked to it, there's no turning back. But Mississippi's done a great job of managing wild turkey population in this state. It's really been one of the real bright stars for us. And it gives everybody across the entire state, whether it's here in South Mississippi or as far south as the Tennessee border, everybody gets an opportunity to pursue some of the best turkey hunting in the country. It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
It is. It is. I can't wait to next season.
I know you can't.
And I don't. And I am an amateur. I tell people all the time that every time I go hunting, I still have to make sure that the mouth call is pointing the right way.
That's cool. So you're still learning. Hey, listen, when we come back, more than once, he and I have alluded to kind of a rough patch in his life. And I want to share a comment that somebody made on Facebook. And then I'm going to ask Todd to tell you a little bit more about his story. We'll tell you more when we come back from break. See you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. Listen, are you looking to purchase the perfect piece of hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or have you been dreaming of owning your slice of heaven out in the country? Look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit mslandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at any of their offices. As I've mentioned many times, they've helped friends of mine acquire some terrific hunting property adjacent to some property that I lease now, Mississippi Land Bank. Hey, listen, we're back with Todd Hairston. He's a new commissioner appointed by Governor Tate Reeves. Thrilled to have him on the show today. And we've more than once sort of alluded to a time in his life that he's found redemption from. And I want to share with you, George Mulvaney, I posted about Todd, and George Mulvaney made a comment, and this comment kind of captures it. And then I made a response to it, and I'll read that. And then I'll just get Todd to tell his story. But here's what George Mulvaney wrote. I've hunted and fished with Todd Hairston from Alaska to North Carolina and all in between. I've seen him at his worst, pre-recovery from alcoholism, and in his best. The new Todd is a man who learned from his past and has moved forward with a vengeance to become a better father, a better citizen, and a better person. Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks and the entire state of Mississippi has gained a fierce advocate for our wildlife and fisheries resources. And then I added, I look forward to telling his story. Todd's story is raw, authentic, redemptive, and inspiring. He's ready to serve. There's no doubt about that. Thanks for weighing in, George. Ricky. So with all that said, Todd, as you hear people sort of referring to you that way, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, first of all, I read that comment when George posted it, and all honesty, I was checking summer food plots when I read it, and I had to put my truck in park on the gravel road for a few minutes. The fact that we're having this conversation and that someone like him would make a comment about me like that is a testament to what's really possible. You know, when the idea of this commission thing came up, I was apprehensive at first because of the past that you talked about. However, those stories from my past A lot of folks know them, and it's scary to a guy like me at first. However, if they can see me now and talk to me and watch me operate, and if they may be struggling or know somebody that is, maybe they'll give them a little hope. And if they need somebody to reach out to, I'm right here talking to you on Super Talk. So there's nothing that I love more other than my family and my faith than going and helping somebody out these days.
Well, you look back, and it's been about 3 years, right?
That's right.
So describe the old Todd and describe the new Todd.
Man, the old Todd was actually not even me. You know, a lot of people see alcoholism and addiction and don't understand it, and that's understandable. What truly is going on there is that's all a symptom of something that they're trying to suppress or hide or just run away from that they probably don't even know about. And mine was identity. I wasn't myself and didn't know it for almost 30 years, and that's a miserable place. To describe me would be complete chaos, pain, complete selfishness, always looking for a bigger, better thing to go do, thinking that it would solve whatever problem it was that was causing me to not be happy in my life.
And I hate that for you, but frankly, buddy, there are a lot of people who are listening to this who have been through this, or maybe they need to go through this process to find their new self. And as I've mentioned, your story of redemption, I think, will be an inspiration to others. I mean, what we would need you to do, we need the new Todd to come onto this commission and be selfless and focused on leaving a legacy for our kids and making tough decisions when tough decisions need to be made, et cetera. That's what we need. And so what I've become confident in our conversations is that, you know, the guy I'm talking to today is who's going to be going to that commission. And I think you're going to be a great commissioner because of it. So when you think about the new Todd, what do you think about?
Well, you know, as it relates to the commission, I make this statement a lot. I didn't know that people lived like I live today. I as an adult, I never knew that. And the freedom of living with no agenda of your own or someone else's is a beautiful life, whether that be at home, sitting in a church pew, or serving on a commission, right? And I've spent a career listening to folks that are a whole lot smarter than me, and there are experts all around all of these issues that know more than me about it. I look forward to hearing from them. I hadn't had a chance to hear much yet, but we've got some great resources at the state that I look forward to talking to. Our first meeting's coming up, and I look forward to that, to meeting more folks in the department.
Yeah, and you know, I mentioned before, and of course it was part of the news story, that you were a former member of the board for the foundation that is part of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, raises money. I mean, that was a good experience for you because it gave you the opportunity to see how hard so many people are working to raise money to fill gaps inside the department. So, you know, from that perch, you really got to see a lot and got to know a lot of the people who are involved in this process. And in that regard, it's going to be helpful to you, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You know, I think that everybody involved in wildlife in Mississippi is an asset. And so the more we work together on every single issue, the better off we'll be, the better off the state will be, better off wildlife will be, and therefore the end user and the hunter and the outdoors enthusiast.
Well, listen, I want to share with people a little bit about our conversations because I think it's important to this discussion. They've heard me They know where I come from. They know how seriously I take the fact that I'm fortunate to have an independent voice. And I think one of the cool areas that we connected on is the point you just made just a few minutes ago, that there's something liberating from being independent. You know, whether it's a guy sitting in a chair like this who has an opportunity to shed light on a process so important as the commission. It's liberating if you're a member of the commission and you're your own man and you're not trying to please somebody else, but you're trying to do the right thing. There's something to be said for being independent. And you and I had conversations about that. And I would say the very first conversation we had when we started to talk, I was kind of skeptical, to be honest with you. And you know that. And you had work to do with me. And what I have found in my life, in my career, that you got to give people an opportunity to tell their story. You got to give them an opportunity to present themselves to you. And I gave you that opportunity, and I hung in there with you. And we had many other follow-up conversations, and we've been involved in text back and forth. I think it's important for people to know the amount of attention that I placed on this, but also the amount of attention you placed on this. You didn't see me calling you as a threat, but you really saw it as an opportunity, didn't you?
I did. You know, the work you mentioned with you, the work is easy when you're honest about everything. When you're completely open, it's not hard. I did see an opportunity here. Before 3 years ago, I had a great, childhood, hunted a lot, fished offshore when I moved to the coast. But something in the back of my mind wouldn't let me enjoy some bucket list experiences. And I knew it. I would ask myself all the time what it was that caused me to not be able to live in those moments. I couldn't figure out what it was. But I was always lucky. And I didn't have any respect for myself or.
Hey, let's pick it up right there. So you were lucky. You didn't have respect. You're going to talk about you found yourself. And when we get back on the other side, we'll in the final segment kind of wrap it all up with Todd Hairston, the new commissioner of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, in a world where honesty and dependability are rare, Austin Seals and Jordan Blissett at Open Season Properties stand out with their commitment to integrity and hard work. With a background in agriculture science, marketing, and hunting land development, this team offers real service that you can rely on when buying or selling real estate, whether it's your family property or your first piece of ground. They understand the significance of every transaction, specializing in recreational land, poultry farms, investment properties, farm and timberlands, and more. They are here to meet all your real estate needs. Give Austin Seals and Jordan Blissett at Open Season Properties a call today and experience the difference. Hey, when we went to break, Todd was just sharing that about his transition. Why don't you just pick it up from there, Todd?
Sure. I was talking about so I used to be lucky, hunting and fishing, even when I didn't have any respect for myself or where I was or the fish or the deer that I was chasing. I would stumble around and somehow shoot the biggest deer out there. And when I got sober, the luck dried up. It went away. And I was kind of catch myself looking up in the air and saying, why would you reward me in the dark times and punish me in the light? And then I went to Alaska with my friend George, and one day I found myself, I think it was day 3, on a ridge overlooking this beautiful, like 5,000 acres of marsh. Hadn't seen a moose yet. And it dawned on me, because I'd hiked alone for 3 days and wasn't scared of the bears or injury or anything, and was thriving and not just surviving. It dawned on me that I'm capable of a lot more than I realized. At that time, I was in pretty good shape, a lot better shape than I'd been in back in the bad times. But I realized I could do 2 or 3 times more than I thought. Not just physically, though, emotionally, spiritually, everything. That was a big thing for me. And that was the first time I realized that I can go outside and go hunting or just be out in the outdoors. And if I open my mind up, I can be shown some things about myself, about manhood, and about God. And so later on, I got lucky and killed a moose, not knowing what I was doing. Really nice moose, and when I walked up to it, it was incredible. Big majestic moose. One thought is, how am I going to get this thing out of here? But I did, but I did realize that I wasn't as excited as I have been when I've killed things before. And then it immediately dawned on me that it was big and pretty and incredibly lucky, but not as big as finding out things about myself.
Yeah, I had the opportunity, which we can't go into all of it now, but I had the opportunity to watch your testimony at church. I thought it was incredible, the way that you put God in the center of your life. And what's been cool, I think about what Will says about turkey hunting, that he talks about when he gets out into the woods turkey hunting, that sometimes he thinks that I need to do a prayer. I need to say a prayer. But then he says, I don't need to, because I'm in a prayer. The experience of connecting with nature in that sort of, providential way is what the outdoor offers to us. And that's what it offered to you in Alaska. And that's what it offers to you every time you're out there today, that connection. And, the outdoors saved me when I was a kid, not in the way that it saved you, but it kept me out of, doing things I probably would have done if I weren't in the outdoors. And outdoors saves you. And you know what? Outdoors saves all of us. All of us are saved by the outdoors. We may not even be aware of it, but we are being saved because we're there with people we love and trust, and we're and seeing God's amazing template for what he's created. And there's just something special about it. And, now you have an opportunity not only to continue to enjoy that, but to give back as a new member of the commission. And what a wonderful, that's why I call it redemption. I think it's such a beautiful redemptive story. And you have to go onto this commission and see it that way, Yeah.
One part of giving back, and a big part of it, is letting people see how important being outside is to mental health.
Yes.
I've told you before, and I told the governor recently that there's a reason that going out into the wilderness, up on the mountain and out in a boat alone, by Jesus, was mentioned so many times in the Bible, before and after significant events. I didn't think about that before. I'm just being honest, but when I do, when I'm out there, life looks different, and I believe that I'm being shown really important things about life through the thing that I'm most interested in order to apply it to the rest of my life.
It's a divine experience. Todd Hairston, new commissioner for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, my friend.
You too. Thank you.
You bet. Listen, stay safe in the outdoors. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.